Okay, well, let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Excited to have this awesome conversation around the rise of regional Mexican music. I'm Stephanie Carvajal, working with YouTube Music. I work on the Latin artist partnerships and development, and we have a great panel here today.
Hi, I'm Isabela, Raygoza, Associate Editor for Billboard Español from Tijuana, San Diego, based in New York City.
Hello, everyone. I'm Valeria Murillo. I worked at Selective Hearing. We do consulting and management for various artists, including Prajin Group, and I'm also managing Peso Pluma.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bruce Ramos. I work at Dell Records. We're based out of Los Angeles. I focus on digital monetization and content optimization, and I'm happy to be here on this panel to talk about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. So to start, really, we want to talk about the fact that obviously the growth and the rise of regional Mexican music has been a movement, and it's not just a moment that has happened overnight. So to give context for the conversation, I'd like to quote Isabela's Billboard article. She says, regional Mexican music didn't just go global in the blink of an eye. For starters, this legacy genre has been around for more than a century and a half. That endurance has allowed regional Mexican, an umbrella term comprising banda, corridos, norteño, sierreños, mariachi, and more subgenres to build a solid foundation and fervid fan base on both sides of the U.S.-Mexico border. Keeping in mind that the U.S. is home to the second largest Mexican community in the world, right? So having that as context, let's talk a little bit about really what is the history of regional Mexican music and how have we gotten to where we are now?
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of very key moments within what is Mexican music. The actual term was coined in the 80s on radio stations as a catch-all phrase to comprise all these genres that my colleague just mentioned. But like she said too, it's been going on for about 150 years ago. There's been very key moments within history, for example, we could even start with Richie Valens. When he started incorporating a son jarocho from Veracruz, a traditional genre from that region, and he infused it with rock and roll, that also became a form of regional. Obviously, Selena with her Tex-Mex, that's also been a form of regional. And today, we're seeing this evolution with artists that are incorporating traditional corridos with a trap flavor, a trap bravado. So it's been a genre that has been evolving while borrowing from the contemporary times, the moments that we live today. So it's been a very exciting thing to witness, especially just now that we've been witnessing an explosion.
Exactly. So for the first time in history, we've had regional Mexican artists and music enter Billboard's top 100, right? So going to, we see also, based on Lumina data, that the consumption in the U.S. has jumped over 42% year to date through May. That's crazy if we think about it, just in 1 year. Which, the genre comprised, once again, banda, corridos, norteño, all of the subgenres. They had the equivalent of 5.81 million album units in the first 21 weeks of this year, compared to 4.09 million in the prior year. So we're really just seeing this explosion, right? We have these Mexican and Mexican-American artists that are leading the Billboard Global 200, the top 100. On May 6th, the top 3 spots on Tally were that, right? We had Grupo Frontera and Bad Bunny's Un Por Ciento be number 1. Then we had Eslabón Armado en Peso Plumas, Ella Baila Sola become number 2, which was the first regional Mexican to enter the top 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. Mm-hmm. So it's just, it's all coming really fast, but it's a culmination of this movement. And then number 3 was Young Lucas and Peso's La Bebé, right? Which if you guys haven't heard it, definitely go check them out. And yeah, so it's the first time that 2 Mexican music are simultaneously in the Hot 100's top 5.
I just want to explain slightly what, for those who don't know what the Top 100, it's a list that was invented in 1958, and it tracks the digital album sales and streaming sales all in the US. So what my colleague is saying, since this year, we've seen about 20 regional Mexican music songs enter that list. Before 2023, there was only 3. That's incredible. That's really unprecedented. And the first one that ever made it as a regional song to that Hot 100 list was in 2021 with Cristian Nodal and Gera MX. So it's been incredible just to see this explosion.
Absolutely. So let's speak a little about Peso Pluma, for example, and Eslabón Armado, right? I mean, both songs have been top trending, top stream, top artists. I mean, how do you guys feel about this?
Okay, well, this year has been really, really crazy, at least for the Peso Pluma project. So it has been really fast as well, the growth we've seen with his music, and also how I've been seeing things too. I don't know how you feel, but now that they entered charts as well, we're trying to break this barrier of, yes, there's a precedent, it's regional Mexican, but it's not regional anymore. It's becoming international. And we already have, like, all the time we had these doubts from the artists, like, oh, is people gonna listen to my song? Are they gonna listen to it if they're not from Mexico, if they're not Mexican American, if they're in the US, but maybe other countries? What about Asia? What about Europe? Are they gonna listen to my music? So right now, I think we're in the verge of breaking this barrier, of making it, yeah, Mexican music, but not only. I think we've gone beyond regional now, and it's definitely been a ride, and I think it'll keep growing with all these artists that we have upcoming. We have Eslabón Armado, Peso Pluma, Natanael Cano, all of these artists that are out there, Grupo Frontera, that we're already mixing now. La Bebé with Peso Pluma, it's actually a reggaeton track. And we've just seen like all these, I don't know, like crossovers from a lot of genres, but also keeping that regional Mexican stamp that makes it so unique. So I think that's why we're all really happy, but also kind of surprised as well that it's been going that fast in that little time.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely what happened with the genre is like a lot of artists and content creators remain consistent, regardless of the fan base, and it organically happened. I think there's a lot of people and a lot of collaborations you could attribute it to, but it's just consistency across the board with many songwriters, many content creators, artists, musicians, all that stuff that kind of kept it going. And we're consistent with the content, the music, the songs. So that really was what the secret was, I think, is not giving up and continuing that consistency.
Awesome. And so speaking a little bit of what you guys touched on, what do you feel that the role of technology and these global platforms have played in really globalizing a genre that had been much more niche?
I think what helped a lot with these technology platforms is the evolution of the editorial teams. I think back in the days, there wasn't a lot of support for regional Mexican music. It was just kind of lumped together with like Latin, reggaeton, and it kind of was just there. There was no subgenre programming. There was no people that were really fans of the genre or understood the genre within these platforms. And slowly these platforms developed the teams to kind of support the growth of these different subgenres. And that was kind of what helped technology-wise, aside from user adoption across the globe, obviously, and TikTok. But all that stuff definitely helped internally with these platforms. They kind of got with the program and figured out this is not just a small niche of content creators. It's actually has a big fan base, and the numbers showed it. And obviously, they had to program it. So that's what helped.
Absolutely.
And also, Gen Z is very digitally inclined. So with the usage of, social media and streaming services, obviously the growth of playlist curation across DSP platforms, they have also just propelled the momentum for the digital, obviously, age. And, the Gen Z and the younger generations are the ones that will define what are the new movements happening now, right? And that's what we're seeing today, because when you think about a corrido, which to me is the image that many of older generations have is the one wearing the sombrero with a mustache, cinto piteado, boots. But now you're seeing this generation of kids really embodying a swag that is very modern today. And obviously this is very, everyone's on TikTok, everyone's on Instagram. So that also propels a lot of the movements musically as well.
Absolutely. So you're talking about, people are putting, Gen Z per se, is putting their own spin to what traditionally regional or Mexican music has been, right?
Totally.
And the reach that these global platforms have allowed. I guess, I think we've touched on a lot of things, but can we touch a little bit more on kind of the challenges that the genre has seen historically and how you think we've been overcoming those?
Well, for us, at least, it's been a challenge just to get out of that little box. At least, I'm talking about also, I think this year and the last few years, it's been a challenge, like you said, coming out of this traditional type of Mexican music, corridos. What are corridos? Like I recently just went to the doctor and he said like, oh, you work with regional Mexican corridos and they're all bad and they're like they sing about bad things, and it's really not that. There's like a lot of things that involve the music. So when you listen to Mexican music, you can think about guitars, you can think about tololoche, charchetas, all these instruments that are really maybe not out there in other genres, So I think incorporating all of these elements in just the new modern world is what it's been a challenge for us, at least for, I would say, millennials. I'm a millennial, and older generations as well, just to get it, Like when I talked to my parents about working in the genre, they were like, "Are you sure about that?" So it's not like it doesn't need to be the same as it was before, but we also try to keep that essence that makes it Mexican music. So it's just taking the best of both worlds and combining it. Also, new generations, I think they were not as exposed to this type of music anymore. We had a really big wave of reggaeton music, EDM music, just like other types of genres that were really, really strong in the last few years. And a lot kind of got lost in the wave for Mexican music, for regional at least. So coming back and seeing just like listening to these songs in a club or just like where places like the supermarket, places you wouldn't feel you would listen to these songs, I think that has been like a great step into actually making it more accessible for everyone, that you're not listening to this type of weird music. Like everyone's welcome, even though they made it regional. Everyone's welcome to hear. And I think that's been the challenge that we've endured, but we're getting there.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to see now. Even before, it wasn't cool to listen to regional Mexican music. Only your parents played it or listened to it, or you would only listen to it at parties. Nowadays, or like in school, it was only like the rock guys that brought their guitars out in the corner. Like now it's like front and center, lunchtime, nutrition. These kids are bringing their instruments. They're proud to play covers of the songs, and like they're living it throughout their life when they're in school, while they're at home, while they're on their devices. So they're being passionate about it because they feel like they can reach these goals too, because there are millennials being successful in the genre. So it's definitely inspiring to them, and they create the content, which leads to the kind of mass appeal of the genre.
And also, I think that there have been very key moments in, if we're talking a little bit more historically, that have been a rise to the genre. Like even, for example, I remember even in 2020 when Que Maldición came up with Banda MS. When Snoop Dogg jumped on that remix, it amplified the genre to a wider audience, which I didn't think it was unusual because LA is filled with POC people. So also I remember that when Los Tigres del Norte were selling out stadiums, beating Cardi B's records, nobody was reporting about it. Like in 2019, very few instances you would see something, like I remember in 2015, Rolling Stone reported, well, I actually reported it as a freelancer. When Los Tigres del Norte jumped on stage with Maná to say, we don't vote for racist, obviously, when Trump was in the running for presidency. And that was the first time that a regional Mexican music group was on the headlines of, just from a mainstream American outlet. So once Anglo editors discovered that there's a massive audience and they're selling out stadiums. There's just, this population. Then they decided to allow, editorial content to be promoted on these mainstream websites. And then little by little, we started seeing these outlets doing it. I know, Billboard has been doing it for a really long time with Jenny Rivera. We've been promoting Mexican music, but it was just a column. It just started as a column. So little by little, the department just started getting bigger, the Latin department. So this is just a new movement because with traditional roles in media, there wasn't a job for a writer to explore and amplify these movements. And now that we do have spaces for that, I think that that's also expanding the awareness and the music to further audiences that are outside of our group, of our social group and our ethnic group.
Absolutely. It's almost like you almost don't get that space until it's too hard to ignore, right?
Exactly.
Especially on the Latin side, I think you have to reach certain milestones that are ridiculously high before it's like, oh, wait a minute,
We're here.
Exactly. Cool. So going back, you guys also touched on the cross-genre collaborations. Speak a little bit on the role and how that has helped, break those barriers.
Well, for Peso Pluma at least, it's something he always wanted to do. He loves music. He loves different type of genres. He listens to regional Mexican, but also he loves reggaeton. He loves it. He plays that every day. And it was kind of in his mind. He wanted to do something, but also he knew his fans were really into Mexican music. So he was afraid. And we kind of did it La Bebé. In all honesty, it was kind of like exploring. It was just like a tryout. We were trying to see if people would like it. He was scared to put it out. He loved it. He loved the song. He wanted to jump on it because he loved it and he knew he could do it. So we put it out and it was a huge success. So also I think it's part of merging a lot of genres. I know sometimes it's kind of impossible, but just giving the message that music is music and you can try it and jump and maybe people will like it and maybe they won't. We have other, we were just talking about our song with El Alfa that just recently released, and it's not for everyone. It's definitely not for everyone. And if you're in love with Mexican music, you might not like dembow or you might not like reggaeton, but other people might do. So I think it's just like a lot of going back and forth with what the artist actually wants to do. And also something important that you mentioned is always keeping some part of your essence and your style that you need to put out in anything you do. So as long as you keep that, I think you can try, you can put out reggaeton. And for this, for example, I was just actually telling them, Ella Baila Sola and La Bebé came out on the same day. We didn't plan it that way, but sometimes things happen. And they both were so strong. They were fighting each other on charts. So it was just crazy because we were just like, what should we do? We're in the reggaeton side, we're in the Mexican music side. And it ended up really being synchronized as to different fan bases that liked different things. So you really open up to other type of people and other fans when you go out of your comfort zone, but never forgetting where you came from, obviously.
That proves your point, right? That there's a fan base there's music and genres for all types of fan bases. So there's a little bit of everything for everyone.
Yeah, I think one of the things that stood out to me in the genre as a fan of all music, and you can't ignore the Bad Bunny effect, but that collaboration helped a lot because he's still a massive artist, but for somebody like that to adopt a genre, a sound, and collaborate with an artist at that level, I think was very, very crucial. And it opened up the eyes to a lot of producers, a lot of different people in different genres, like, wow, what is this sound? What is he doing? They were trying to figure it out. And I think a lot of people are still trying to figure it out, but it's here and it's here to stay. So I think it's gonna be a good thing to see it grow even more.
I was going to mention that too. It was very monumental because obviously reggaeton at that time was the #1 Latin genre. And when Bad Bunny definitely jumped on this Corridos Tumbados track in 2019, it really did expose los caribeños and anyone that was doing música urbana to that style of music. And I also remember that recently when I interviewed Nicky Jam, he recently released a song with Luis R. Corniquez, and it's an original Mexican song. So I'm like, hey, so there's obviously a trend of like these reggaeton artists jumping on regional Mexican music tracks. And then I asked them like how was, how was it like stepping into a territory that is new for you in terms of what you've done historically musically? And it's like, for me, it's just like getting exposed to that world was incredible. I was really fascinated because they're like us. So es música de la calle. And that's the connection that these genres have, because it's music that rose from the streets. And there's a lot of parallels, not sonically, but, culturally. So it's just the way that it's been exposing audiences throughout. I think it's just awesome. And yeah, collaborations have been pretty key to that.
And it's funny you mentioned that. The parallels are undeniable. And a lot of these, whether it was reggaeton, urban, and regional Mexican, it was almost kind of looked down upon, right, at first, or like we said, almost specific groups listen to it more. So it's interesting to see that evolution as well.
Recently I was speaking with Fuerza Regida, and these obviously they look like rappers as well. If someone who doesn't know the way that one dresses. And I asked them, like, so why did you choose to sing this genre? And it was like, what, I've always loved it. I grew up listening to it in my house, but I used to be embarrassed. And I remember that, like, even when I was younger and my dad used to listen to it, I was like, oh, like, I like it, but it's like como guilty pleasure, right?
Wow.
So
almost like something you listen to at home, but it's not mainstream or cool, like
Yeah.
Bruce was saying, right? It wasn't the cool thing.
Definitely.
Awesome. So where do we see the genre going next? What do we see? How do we see it impacting culture? What do we think, comes next for it?
Well, honestly, I would love to hear Mexican music outside of just like the continent. I would love it to go actually global, And I think that's a step that we've been waiting for a really long time, especially for Mexican music. We've always talked about how we need like this, like representation out there of these artists. Like, okay, some other countries have them, like reggaeton, it went global. Bad Bunny went global at some point. And I think that that's next for Mexican music. We're at a point that we can make it happen. And I would just love to go to Japan or Korea and listen to corridos there, like go out and be able to listen to that song on the street. I think at least for what I see in the future, I would love to work towards that. And I know it's possible because we've seen it now with the exposure that TikTok, Shorts, everything like this type of videos have. I've seen so many videos around the globe. Just like I know there's a lot of Latin people around the globe as well, but I hope the exposure is enough just to let your friend know, like, oh, I have this cool song. You might not understand it, but then again, we have K-pop out there, and that's a huge genre that we listen everywhere. And I sing to songs, I don't know what they're saying, but
Exactly.
I still do it. So I hope the next step for Mexican music is to go actually global, not just getting stuck right here. Because even though we are in a huge market, for example, Mexico people is the place where they listen most, but still. I think it's possible, and I think we're right on track.
But just talking charts, it's actually been more of a rapid rise, even quicker for regional Mexican than reggaeton was. Like, it's really a regional takeover in the Hot 100. Like, even just this week alone, there's like 11 tracks that are regional Mexicano, and 16 of them are Spanish language music. So what does that say? How many of them are, like, you do the math, right? Like, how many reggaeton, how many regional? And even just this year, like I mentioned, there's nearly 20. That's never happened. Like, that never happened with reggaeton in terms of, like, how rapidly we've been seeing this explosion.
Yeah, we're seeing crazy numbers like across the board, not just in Latin America. Like Colombia's been doing it big for a while, but I think like to see Japan and Russia having millions and millions of streams and millions of followers is super crazy to me. This is something I've never seen. There were blips before, but now it's like really, really going global. So I think just people are adapting to the sound and adapting to the style and the vibe. And I think it's just going to keep going from here.
I was looking at the markets for, I think, Peso Pluma, because he's #1 in YouTube charts. And some of the markets are crazy. Obviously, the obvious, right? LATAM, Mexico, US. But then you see things like Canada, Switzerland, Indonesia. What were some of the other ones? Like just all these markets that you don't necessarily expect.
Yeah, we got super surprised on our last releases because there were playlists, but also just organic listeners from all over the world. We had Sri Lanka, we had Japan, Korea, Vietnam, all of these countries that you would say like, who listens to him there, you know? And we're just so glad, but also we're trying to make it happen, you know? So we're obviously planning something for the future as well. We want to move to these countries. We know it's not going to happen on its own, and we need to be really smart about it. We need to actually plan it and go there and try. And even if we play for 3 people, but you play there, you know? So those type of things and those type of actions is what I think makes a difference in the long run, that people from there are excited that, oh, they know we don't have like a huge fan base here, but they're coming still and they're taking us into consideration. So I think that's part of also just getting to other places, really open up your market and open up your mind, even if it's not like this, oh, people are gonna get bored or if I'm gonna have 3 persons in my show. It's okay. It's part of the journey, and I think it's something that we're really open to right now.
That's great to hear, right? Because it's like in a way almost humbling that you're trying to break into a new territory. And even though at home you have millions of followers and fan base, the fact that you're willing to try to break into a new market, like you say, if they show up to a show with 3 or 5 followers, okay, but they're there, right?
Yeah.
So that's huge. That also brings to mind for me, like, how do you see the creation of content and like user-generated content playing a role in this?
It's huge for us. I think it's almost like over 60% of our content that gets consumed is user-generated content. For example, Ya Baila Sola, it's got over 200,000 claimed videos that generates over 22 million views a day. That's crazy numbers. I've never seen anything like that. And then on TikTok, there's over 3 million videos created with that song. The hashtag itself on TikTok specifically has over 2 billion views. So that's monstrous numbers from creators that are doing the dances, the tutorials, the lyric, you know, behind the lyrics, or they're doing their own renditions of the songs in different formats, different genres. It's unique to see, and that I think that's also been part of the, actually it is part of the success, is the individual content creators that have gone out of their way to create content with the music to make it bigger and expand on YouTube Shorts, and TikTok.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes they'd even beat us on like putting out the lyric video. It's already out, and they did it themselves. Yeah. So that type of thing really goes a long way. The fan base and just in general them right now with social media, I think it's just being huge around music, because you need to put good music out there, definitely. But them making the content and putting it out there for other people to listen that might have not gotten to them in any other circumstances, then that's a big deal of it. So it's been huge. I don't think we don't even understand the whole thing yet, because it's been that big, especially in this short amount of time. I was just talking to Stephanie. I came here with Peso Pluma in January. He didn't even have a YouTube channel back then. Yeah. And that was, he's up to 2.3 million subscribers now. He has more than 50 million in his first video. So I think it's been going really, really fast, and I hope it keeps going like that.
Yeah. But no, it's a crazy thought, because it was even end of January, and I remember we're like, you were just gonna kick it off, and we're like, and now look, it's 6 months. Artists could dream of that type of growth, right?
But also the way that they've been really innovative in how they've been releasing their music. Like, for example, when Fuerza Regida launched, a song, they stopped the freeway and they started just performing in the freeway, causing like traffic. Then there was another occasion when they went to the U.S.-Mexico border and they began busking songs and then signing an artist who was also a busker. So, and then obviously recording it and putting it on YouTube and generating millions and millions. It's like, wow, look at the way they navigate. Then they stopped at this supermarket on the rooftop and then they perform there. So like the way that they're just really providing, just creative content on their own along with these songs are further just amplifying the dynamics of that too, and how prolific they're being, you know, and I remember because one of the guys that I interviewed, he said, you know, we're always thinking about just the next song because think about it. The last time, do you remember what you saw on your feed yesterday, like on IG? Most of us probably don't. So this is a way that we have to keep, you know, putting on. And like, obviously there have been a lot of songs that have stuck, you know, like Ella Baila Sola, like it's been like 16 weeks on the chart, five weeks at #1. And you know, just, I mean, hey, it's, yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting you mentioned how creative artists are having to be, but also I think it's allowed, like it's given them the opportunity to be versatile, right? Back in the day, I think, I think Valeria, you were mentioning, they're almost a little scared that their audience may not be receptive or accept certain type of experimentation or music. So it's interesting that it has opened doors for them creatively as well.
Yeah, and sometimes also, I guess the artist has his own private life, obviously, but the fans right now in this age, they're so engaged to what the artist is actually like, what they are as a human. Because right now, yeah, you connect to the music, but there is so much music out there that how do you connect to the fan in other ways, and how do you connect to the artist in other ways? So for us, it has been a challenge to get that balance. Mm-hmm. So for the artist, especially Peso Pluma Hassan, to have his personal life for himself, but also putting out there the best of him too, yeah. And for fans to get closer to him, because at the end of the day, he's a human too. So we've tried really hard to put out there also the human side of this artist in general. Like there's Hassan, there's Nata, there's Pedro, and they struggle with a lot of things as well. So I think right now fans also want to be closer in that sense, that they feel, yeah, they're artists, but they also have health problems, mental problems. They're happy, they're sad. So we've also tried to do this type of content. We've done some blogs that aren't out there yet, but we're blogging the tour right now. And it's just the good and the bad as well, but it's something we want to put out there too, because I think it just gives you the complete roundabout of what is going on, and also how they're enduring with their career. I think that's important as well, because right now people want to connect in other ways. Mm-hmm. They love music, but also I think if you go that step beyond, you get the complete thing, the 360.
Yeah, I think those in real life experiences, like fan engagement, like right now Eslabon is doing local tours in Los Angeles at schools, like connecting with small groups of kids, 200, 300 people that can actually get close to them. They don't need the VIP experience, it's coming to them. That means a lot to the fans, and it helps them like really become super fans. Like, wow, I met Pedro, he took a picture with me. I didn't have to go to the show, but now I want to go to the show. Yeah. So it's part of marketing / fan engagement / just being a real person in real life with real people.
Yeah, ultimately they're keeping it real, like you guys are saying, sharing beyond their music. And totally agree that fan bases want to connect. They connect with the music, but they want to connect with that personality too, and kind of see what else is out there, right? What else around their career, their music, their life. So definitely a delicate balance for sure. Cool. So I think we have some time for Q&A. If you guys have any questions, feel free to come up to the microphone.
Hi, you all. Good to see you all. This was a very, very great panel, a very eye-opening panel. Just hearing the numbers with regional Mexican music consumption in the U.S. with a over 40% year-over-year growth rate is crazy. I don't even think in the rise of Afrobeats that I saw a growth rate like that. And given, you know, the goal of like globalization, specifically within the Afrobeats genre, we've seen a lot of mainstream artists hop on the Afrobeats train and create Afrobeat music to the point where some may say it's losing its essence, it's losing its culture. There's a little dilution into the genre. Do you all fear that collaborations with more mainstream artists may impact the essence of the genre?
What I've seen is a lot of these collaborations have been pretty authentic to both sides of each genre for each artist. I think if the artists take time to like get to know each other again in real life, work together, like, and actually beyond like the studio session, actually hang out for a week, talk about stuff, talk about upbringings, all that stuff, and then work with talented producers to make it sound authentic, where it's not corny or it's not out of the realm for either artist. I think it'll be okay. So far, it's been safe out there, but definitely not scared of the collaborations. I think that's what's going to help the genre grow. And if it sounds corny to some, it might sound great to others. So I don't think there's a fear, at least on my end.
Yeah, I think it's part of evolving also into getting to other people. But like we were saying before, I think all of these artists are really careful of what they put out there and their essence still being in there. So whenever there is this type of collaborations, for example, just recently, Peso Pluma did Bizarrap as well. And he made sure his musicians were there just to get an input of what was going on into the song. His charchetas, tololoche, requinto, they were all there. They were all putting it into the song, and it wasn't just part of like this pre-made track. They all worked on it together. So I think that's what it gave it was a collaboration, and Bizarrap took place on all the producing side, but it was also all of the real instruments, the real input of the band was there. Hassan got a lot of like say on how his voice wanted to sound. So I think it's just part of taking care of your own music and how you put it out there, and also how you take care of the process. I think that's like the really important part.
You know, I think that's a really interesting point, because there has always been the conversation about like jumping on the bandwagon. Is it authentic? Are you now trying to claim your roots when historically you haven't really, you were a rapper, now you're singing reggaeton, and it only happened when this explosion happened. So there's always going to be that question whether, because something is blowing up, is it because you are authentic to it or not? That's always a conversation that's very tricky, like the authenticity to keep it real within a genre. But also even just looking at like all these other collaborations, I mean, one that came to mind and was like folk rock. When traditionalists are going to be traditionalists. Remember when Dylan plugged in, all the folkies were like, what is this? This is not folk. Why are you putting rock in this? Obviously, we've seen these mashups of genre, and now as we're seeing, this genre that carries these roots are being infused with a trap bravado. It was at one point called trap corridos, right? And the traditionalists might be upset because they want to keep things the way they were, respecting the genre, its format, but obviously evolution is always going to happen, and we're going to, like electrocumbia as well with like Selena. So, I mean, I think it benefits the genre because we're now experiencing songs that are actually authentic from the era today, and that's something that a creator does. It's create something out of nothing.
Absolutely. Awesome. It's in a way modernizing it, right, for our current times and,
Yes.
and use case.
Updating
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Any other questions?
Hi. How do you feel was the reaction from the U.S. industry that an artist from Latin America independent label reaches the top of the charts in the U.S. or in global?
Well, we had a lot of people reach out. I'd say people that maybe we weren't aware that would reach out. A lot of American rappers or singers that they wanted to jump in on the genre as well. Mainly because it's really catchy too. So most of the time, they want into the genre, but also they like it. So there's like all of these new type of personalities just like reaching out now, and it's great. Honestly, I think it feels great just especially for the artists to feel acknowledged, because I think they've been listening to that type of music. This more, I don't know, American music, and the music they listen in the US, and you kind of not feel part of it for most of the time. So right now that you're into their circle and you get to just be part of this bigger group of people, I think it feels great. We always, like as Latin people, sometimes we just feel like kind of left out, like, oh, there's the big Grammys and the little Grammys, stuff like that, like they tend to do that a lot. And it's just like you've been invited to the party, but also you're just kind of like, okay, now I'm in, but I don't really care, you know? It's just like, I'm doing my thing, I'm singing my songs, yeah, hanging out with new people, but I think they all keep really authentic to what they are.
Awesome.
Hi. Hi, all. There's so much data out there today that can tell you when things are spiking, whether or not it's a new song or a catalog track. So I was just curious, what data and where do you find it? Do you find to be the most actionable? And then what are the largest challenges you're currently having with accessing kind of the right information at the right time to take action?
Well, at least working at Billboard, we're pretty lucky because we do have a charts team that work with Luminate, so we're able to track digital sales, physical sales, streaming, in the U.S. and globally as well. Obviously, there's also resources that, right? Like you make connections, and then we have a connection here on YouTube, and I can be like, hey, I'm writing a story. Can you share some data on what has been charting in 2023 in terms of YouTube videos? Someone from the team can search that data, obviously SoundCloud. So I think it's pretty good now that, at least in my case, that I've began to network with more industry people, that they're able to provide, data, chart metrics. And it's always very important, obviously, to back up the facts. So it's been, working with data is always just incredible because the numbers obviously never lie, and we can document these trends that are occurring and these upward mobilizations of the sound.
Yeah, from the label side, as far as like the data, all the platforms pretty much give you access. But as far as actionable items, you can see when you launch an album, if it wasn't a single, which songs are the outliers, and you can double down on creating content to kind of help continue to push that album, continue to push the content, the artists, and all that stuff. So I think that's where it helps is you find the outliers. Even if it's a small blip, you take advantage of that small blip and double down on that. So that's what we do at Dell Records.
And I'll just add to that, YouTube Music Charts is public information, so youtubemusic.com/charts.
And just really quick, for example, for us, we have this kid in Spain. He did an Instagram account called Peso Pluma Charts. He gets the data right when it's out. Like, I don't even have to look for it. He sends it to me, and he posts it out there. And I don't even know this guy, but he's on top of the game with charts. So, like, I wake up and I already have them. So fans really go out of their way.
Chart metric.
Yeah.
Send me a check.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask a question about the data on lyric translations. YouTube's closed captioning. Deezer's just added it. Liz Moody said that they did closed captioning at YouTube because of my work. I've been trying to give music subtitles for 19 years right now. Wow. And I'm just wondering how you use the lyric translation data, and how important is that for the rise of Spanish music sung in Spanish in the US and globally since YouTube launched the closed captioning?
I think since YouTube is owned by Google and they have the whole SEO infrastructure, I think the auto translations do a pretty good job of indexing all that stuff. So when you search it, I've done like experiments where I'm searching in English the words of the song title or words within the song, and the song comes up. So I think just the technology platform is so big with just auto-generated AI stuff. It's amazing.
LyricFind generates human translations also. So Deezer's launched human translations of the top 15,000 songs, which are still at least a little bit better than AI. And Spanish-English is the easiest language pair for AI because it's the two biggest native languages. And in America, there's a lot of Spanish-speaking people as well. Yeah. But do you use the data from the closed captioning hits as well in YouTube to determine what's going to start trending? Or
actually, that's a good question because we launched the lyric video for that song Ella Baila Sola prior to the official music video, and we could see obviously where the blips were, where people were, what was going to be the trending words or the trending tracks, and it translated across the board. So we did use some of that data, yeah.
And for us, too, it's also one of the content pieces on Billboard that performs very well in terms of page views and clicks. When we publish data, when we publish lyric translations, we see the data, and one of the ones that it's like, hey, Peso Pluma is releasing a song, let's do a lyric translation. Like that's always a must because we already know the artists that are gonna blow up. And just even with SEO, someone's trying to type maybe, oh, what are they saying? Maybe if you're a native speaker but you don't understand a phrase, people are always gonna be Googling it. And like if the article comes up, that's also great for us. So that's also something that it's a must for Billboard content too.
Great. So lyric translation is important for Spanish language music, right?
Yes.
That's
Definitely.
And when it's translated also into Mandarin or Japanese or Portuguese and the other languages as well. So, okay, thanks.
Thank you all. Well, we're at time. I just wanted to give thank you to the panelists. Not sure if you have any final thoughts.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope it was informative and that we all learned something today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.